City Council to order, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is oral communications. The Brown Act has been suspended to some degree, that oral communications can be, in the primary way the governor suggests is to have anyone who would like to participate do so by using email. But I understand, Mr. Duran, that we've made arrangements that people can call in for oral communications.
Yeah, and again, this has been changing, on a rapid pace, but just within the last hour, we've set up a system where that for tonight's meeting, if people would like to call in under oral communications, they can actually give us a call at 909-394-6206. We did post that about an hour ago, and again, this being a special meeting, we realize that that's late notice, but as we move our city council meetings forward, this will be a protocol that we'll be actually putting into place. But if anyone would like to address the council under oral communications and call in on that number, again, which is 909-394-6206, either at this point of oral communications or the second oral communication period, we have the ability to actually patch them in and for the council to hear their comments.
Thank you. Well, we will have the oral communications here, and for those people who aren't to a telephone yet, we will also have another opportunity for oral communications in just a few minutes. But anyone who would like to address the City Council now may do so.
Good evening, council members. My name is Maurice Cuellar, 909 Cayacero, with the nonprofit of Advocates for Healthy Living, the operator of the San Dimas Farmers Market. First of all, I would like to thank the council for this opportunity to meet and discuss the COVID-19 response. I want to make 100% clear that I am in full agreement that this virus is a serious issue and we should take it as such. That being said, it's clear that there's grief and panic going on right now, grief from the loss of the life that we used to have and panic that followed. Much of that is related to food insecurity. When I found out the farmers market was listed as postponed, I was initially shocked, as this was the first I heard about the postponement. Days have passed since, and guidance has come out from the LA County Health Department and California Department of Health regarding guidance on farmers markets. The LA County Health Officer order does not close farmers markets, just to be clear. In fact, many states have also placed farmers markets in the category of grocery stores as a vital resource to residents. It's basically an outdoor grocery store. We have had a rapidly changing environment and hope that you would allow us to open on April 1st. The market would be scaled back to start, no prepared foods, no crafters, no entertainment. Basically just certified producers and prepackaged foods. And following the guidelines of the LA County Health regarding farmers markets, which includes but not limited to no sampling, social distancing, and we can also expand on that by limiting entry based on the crowd size. We can also create more distance between vendors because there's going to be less vendors. And other options to make it a safe marketplace. So now that I said my piece on that, I also want to offer myself as a volunteer to be part of a COVID-19 San Dimas committee to help brainstorm ideas, whether it's to figure out how to help seniors get shopping done, or even to create a list of local restaurants that continue to serve and deliver in San Dimas. I feel we can still do more for the residents of San Dimas, especially the older residents. Thank you. And I'll also leave the guidance basically that relates to the farmers market here. Thanks, Hector.
Anyone else like to address the City Council at this time? Have we received any telephone calls?
No, we have not.
Okay, then we'll move on to the consent calendar. We actually do not have anything on our consent calendar this evening. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the next is new business, and this is, the purpose of the special meeting is approving a resolution confirming the city manager, director of emergency services proclamation of the existence of a local emergency. Mr. Duran.
Yes, the sole purpose really of tonight's meeting is for the city council to adopt a resolution which confirms the executive order that I took on Friday of last week proclaiming a local emergency. The state code and the city's municipal code allows the city manager as the director of emergency services to proclaim the existence of a local emergency when the city is affected by a public calamity and the city council is not in session. Obviously, over the last week and with the escalation of the COVID-19 virus accelerating and the impacts it's had on the city, in consultation with the executive team, I executed an executive order on Friday declaring a local emergency. This was at the request of the County of Los Angeles, who's requesting that all of the 88 cities within the County of Los Angeles proclaim a local emergency. What a local emergency declaration does is it allows us to procure additional supplies and resources from the county, the state, and the federal government, and also for making us eligible for reimbursement for costs associated with the city's implementation and response to the pandemic that we're facing right now. Even though that the County of Los Angeles and the state of California have also declared emergencies, a local declaration actually puts us in place to expedite our ability to garner supplies, services, and resources if we need them. So we are one of, right now, about 12 cities that have declared a local emergency. We're aware that there are a number of other cities within LA County that either have special meetings tonight or calling special meetings of their council within the next day to also make that proclamation. So what the proclamation authority is that once I made that declaration on Friday, the City Council has 7 days to ratify that execution, and once that ratification occurs, then that extends that order for another 60 days. The City Council within the next 60 days would actually need to take another action to extend that proclamation for another 60 days if the emergency extends beyond that. So staff's recommendation would be that the City Council adopt and ratify the resolution before you, which would ratify the proclamation that was put into effect last Friday and extend that for the next 60 days. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions regarding the resolution, but we're also are prepared to provide the council and the community an update as far as what the city's actions and contingency planning are regarding this emergency once this action is taken. So I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the action.
Any questions of Mr. Duran?
A quick question, Ken. So just interested in what powers you are getting by having this declaration, and you mentioned supplies and that kind of thing. What are some good examples of things that might be done with this declaration as opposed to just the matter of course?
What this does is this allows us to be to make requests to the county or to the state for additional supplies. So for example, if we needed any food supplies, water supplies, gloves, masks, or anything like that, this would actually allow us to, we have the authority now to make those requisitions with the county for mutual aid, but this kind of expedites that, and it puts us in line, if you will, ahead of others who don't have this declaration. It also allows us to, if necessary, apply for reimbursement of expenses down the road if we need to be reimbursed for additional staffing costs or additional expenses that we might incur during this emergency. What it also does is that there is a threshold of a dollar amount of expenses that if accumulation of cities or counties reach that threshold, then that triggers the ability for the state to actually get more money from FEMA based upon those thresholds. So it doesn't give me any additional authority, but it gives the city the authorization to make those requests with the county.
So when you say that threshold of certain dollar amount, whatever that happens to be, does that threshold, is the total of that dollar amount you're talking about, is that made up of only cities with the declaration? Is that why the declaration comes into play there, or is that just all the cities in the county anyway?
It would be all the cities in the county anyway, but the declaration kind of gives it a little bit more of a authority, or
Okay.
a little bit of a, presence. And
Okay.
and it really emphasizes the fact that this is a local emergency that we need outside assistance for.
Okay.
Any other questions, or Ken?
I just have maybe you could explain something to the public, that most of our senior services have been shut down, but it's still possible for people to get meals, I understand, under certain circumstances. Maybe you could explain that.
Yeah, one of the issues that, with all of the closures of some of our events and facilities, one of those impacts was on our senior meal delivery service that we have from our senior center. We have been able to procure a program that we can provide meal delivery service at least through this week, and we're still working on a program that would extend beyond this week. So that information is available on our city's website. So actually, we had a program today where people could actually come by and pick up a meal, a boxed meal. Tomorrow, we'll be able to deliver 2 boxed meals and 3 frozen meals for people, and then they can stop by the senior center. It would be kind of a curbside pickup program, and so we'll be able to deliver that kind of service. And then our staff is working on a longer-term plan beyond that as we go into next week and the following weeks.
Are we going to answer is that
Yeah,
what-
like,
Mr. Mayor, could we take that out of order, maybe to answer that?
I think that's taking these calls is a bad idea, frankly, because it'll be through the entire meeting.
Well, could you just
I
put it-
think we
yeah.
should have followed the governor's proposal, but go ahead, take it.
it seems like they've.
We could always have them wait.
So if the caller who just called in wants to call back, and we'll try and take that call in order. But any other questions? And then, as I said, hello?
Hi, I do have a question. In regards to number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in San Dimas, how will we be getting that information? Does that come from LA County Health in general? Are you guys being informed of that? Because I only learned that there was actually one confirmed case yesterday.
Yeah, correct. It was just yesterday afternoon that the county health department began to release information as far as the location of specific confirmed cases. And they released that information late yesterday afternoon. And it's our understanding that right now there's only one confirmed case in the city of San Dimas. But those numbers are going to be changing as more people are tested and the county has that additional information. But that information would come directly from the county to either the city or to the public in general.
Okay, so you guys would be getting that directly then, and you would be informing the public?
Yes, whatever information that we get from the county, we would be passing on to the public.
And would that be through email, text messages, phone call?
It would be primarily posting additional information on our city's website.
Okay, is there a way we would be able to get emergency alerts through cell phones or anything like that?
As far as the, contracted cases, I don't think that's the type of information that we would be posting out as it becomes available. We would be doing briefings, as we are right now, we're doing briefings at least twice a day with additional information on our website and updating our press release information. So I think that's the most effective way that people can get that information.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
On her telephone call, or on her meeting this afternoon, the 4 to 5 meeting this afternoon for elected officials, county department heads, and others, she indicated, the Director of Public Health indicated that the focus on the number of cases confirmed and where there might be is a bad idea. And that she says that is not the important thing. The important thing is the virus is everywhere, and we need to deal with it as if it's everywhere. And also, the information when it's reported is between 5 and 15 days old, because even if you are exposed and you're tested immediately, the test result will be negative until you actually have symptoms. So if you're going to have symptoms, so that during the incubation period, she said today the test would be negative. So the tests, even though they're only testing people who they're pretty sure are going to have it, they're still. But she says that she hoped people would quit concentrating on this number of cases and where they are, because that information is just not relevant to the issue.
And I agree. And when I get into some of my update, I'll touch on that a little bit. Yeah, that's actually the information that we're trying to disseminate to the community. So I think, if we can take the action.
Why don't we, yeah, I was going to say.
If you have any questions, we can take the action, and then I've got a pretty detailed update for the council and the community as far as what we're doing as regards to the response to the virus.
Okay, and this is, the resolution is 2020-14. Would you read that resolution by title, please?
Resolution 2020-14, a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Dimas, County of Los Angeles, ratifying the City Manager, Director of Emergency Services proclamation of existence of a local emergency.
Do we have a motion to waive further reading and adopt Resolution 2020-14?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-14 carries by unanimous 5-0 vote. And we can now move on, Ken, for your explanation of what you have been doing and the report you wanted to make.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, before you continue, so the phone number is an interesting idea, but I was wondering, so we've got another oral communication period coming up in maybe 10 minutes or so, and I was wondering if the number is on the screen or somehow out there for the public to see. I mean, I don't know if it is or not, and I don't know if our technician in the back can add that quickly, but do we know that or not?
I don't know if it's on the screen.
It's
We
on,
did-
John Lee's shaking his head.
and
yes.
everybody's
Yeah.
saying yes. Okay, fantastic.
That is, okay. So
That's great. Thank you.
if there are calls that come in, if you could wait till the oral communication period, then we can address those questions at that point in time. I apologize, this may seem like a little bit of a sloppy operation, but this is, we're kind of running on the fly with this as with this whole pandemic. But let me kind of update the council and the public as far as where we are as far as our city operations. And as the council is aware, we've been in constant communication with the city council several times a day over the last week, updating you as far as where the city's operations are. But beginning last week, when the pandemic crisis started to escalate, the city made the position of canceling a lot of our community activities and events. And we actually did this the day before the governor made his proclamation and suggested that local agencies and communities cancel events of more than 250 people. And then once his announcement came out, we made that official that we were canceling a lot of our city programs and activities. We closed our senior center with the exception of our meal delivery program. We closed our recreation center, and we canceled all of our recreation classes and programs. Then over the weekend, there was new information, and as this pandemic escalated, there were new directives from the state. And then on Monday, yesterday, the city staff got together and we made the decision that we would be closing down our city hall to the public, but our city staff would be continuing to operate and trying to provide essential services. So we made that decision that we were going to make that effective this morning, Tuesday, March 17th. Then shortly after that, that's when the County Board of Supervisors had a declaration that they were imposing additional restrictions throughout the county, affecting the county unincorporated area as well as all cities, which mandated that any public event of 50 people or more should be canceled, and that any congregation of 10 or more people should institute social distancing, and that there was a directive that certain businesses such as bars, nightclubs, bowling alleys, arcades should close down to the public, and that restaurants should close for in-seating services, and that they could continue to operate with drive-through services or takeout services. So that went into effect effective last night. City staff again met this morning with a briefing with our EOC team to try and make sure that we could try and continue to deliver essential services to our community. In regards to the county directive regarding those businesses, the enforcing agency for those services is the county health department, and in turn the county health department enforcement would be through the sheriff's department or local law enforcement agencies. It's still a little bit unclear as far as how that might be enforced. I was on a briefing at 2 o'clock this afternoon with the sheriff, and it's been indicated that the sheriff's department will be following up on a complaint basis if there are some restaurants or some of these institutions that are not complying. How that actually would work is still kind of in the works right now. The city's position is still that our employees are still reporting to work. Obviously, we have some employees who, due to quarantining situations or with schools closing and daycares closing, we have employees who have childcare issues that we're being sympathetic to. So our staffing levels are reduced from our normal operations, but as of right now, our position is that our employees will be reporting to work. We'll be trying to provide those essential services as best we can until there's a point in time when we may not be able to provide those services. We have issued press releases and posted information on the city's website. We're trying to update that on a real-time basis, at least twice a day or as needed, so that people can understand what the city's current position is as far as what service delivery that we can provide. Those who have questions or are impacted by the cancellation of our programs, we can direct those people to the right department to discuss and issue refunds if that's necessary. But this is a very, very fluid situation that that the city staff is trying to make sure that we can accommodate the essential services, but make those service delivery options flexible as this pandemic unfolds. So that's kind of a little bit of a nutshell of information. Captain Andy Berg from the Sheriff's Department is in the audience, and I think at this time I'd like to call him up if he can provide an update regarding public safety, and then we'd be happy to open this up to questions from the council as far as what the city's current position and response is. Andy.
Thank you. Good evening, council and residents. I do have a prepared statement and happy to take questions. As all of you have experienced, the developments with COVID-19 have evolved rapidly over the past few weeks. As with any major emergency, in this set of circumstances, we've implemented procedures intended to respond to the crisis, maintain a high standard of public safety, and plan for the future needs. The circumstances of this emergency are, as you know, unprecedented in our lifetime. We've experienced a great partnership with our municipal partners as we work through this emergency with city staff, the fire department, hospitals, the health department, and other agencies. Our overall philosophy in addressing the crisis have been focused on a few key points. We have a public safety mission. Failure is not an option. We will be guided by facts, not fear. And we must do all we can to protect the health and safety of our first responders, as without them, we can't function. Losses in that regard would be unacceptable and unsustainable. To that end, much of our planning and effort this past week has been directed towards educating our team on the science of the disease, the manner in which it is transmitted, and developing procedures for handling a variety of incidents. We've developed tactics and operations plans and set about addressing logistics, that is, gathering the equipment we need to perform our public safety mission in a sustainable manner. Operationally, we're at full strength, and we've actually added 2 cars for at least a total of 4 deputies to our deployment every day for the foreseeable future. These are experienced patrol-trained deputies from other divisions, such as Court Services and Detective Division. We've paired them with local deputies who are familiar with our streets and communities. Their mission is to provide additional presence and enforcement at our retail, commercial, and residential areas. They also represent a usable resource available for a variety of as yet unforeseen circumstances. Our service component at the local station remains fully staffed and full service, with one caveat. We've asked the public to minimize unnecessary visits to the station. A fair amount of our normal station lobby traffic involves informational items that can be handled practically and effectively over the phone, or when appropriate, having a deputy respond to their location. Our goal is to maintain a high level of professional service while minimizing the risk to the public and employees. We're still open and available for all transactions that require in-person contact. For example, our lobby restrictions do not apply to regularly scheduled child custody exchanges, individuals required by law to check in with law enforcement, situations in which a law enforcement presence is needed to immediately protect life or property, mandatory visits for payments of fees or collection of property. We will welcome and assist anyone who comes to the station. We simply encourage them to call ahead to see if we can provide service without the in-person contact. For those that do not have it, the station phone number is 909-450-2700. The primary message tonight is this: we're open for business more than ever, prepared for whatever comes. We continue to gather the necessary supplies to address the developing situation. We've beefed up our staff and lined up additional resources should they be needed. We have plans in place to adjust our operations should there be an impact to our capabilities based on illness or unavailable staff. We're working in concert with city staff and public health partners to continue our mission of public safety and service. Again, the Sheriff Station phone number is 909-450-2700. We also have a substantial social media presence, and we post updates as frequently as they're needed. One last piece is we mentioned some of our elderly residents. If there's anybody who's homebound and without support and needs to be checked in on, that's something that people could call the Sheriff Station for. We'll have some exchange of information depending on the need and the immediacy of that need and how frequent it is. We're going to make every effort to regularly check in with those people, and then whoever calls us, we'll call them back to make sure that we keep in contact with them. Other than that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Well, I appreciate you coming, Andy, to offer your words. I think it's encouraging to have you here, for one thing, and I know that we had a brief email conversation about a couple residents who, well, one of whom was worried about increasing theft, break-ins, and somebody even mentioned looting. So, people are on edge, and it's understandable. I mean, as you mentioned, with more people at home, it may actually be safer because for break-ins because people are at home. But nonetheless, it's nice to hear about the additional presence that the Sheriff's Department will have in the community. So thanks a lot.
In regards to that, like you, we're all wondering what might develop. We don't know if because more people are home, there'll be less residential burglaries, but maybe because more kids are out of school, there might be more calls or issues related to that. you know, as this thing develops and how long it goes, you know, maybe there might be businesses targeted for burglary, things like that. So we're ready for that. We're thinking about those things and trying to plan for it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of additional items that I wanted to touch on, and again, all this information is on the city's website, but as far as other services, the city has suspended our parking enforcement, overnight parking restrictions, trying to be sensitive to people who may have, you know, family members who are back home unexpectedly, or people who are congregating their families together, so we will not be enforcing our overnight parking. Also, we are suspending any of our code enforcement activities unless there's a life safety issue. We don't want to make people's lives more difficult, so we are suspending those activities. We have been working with our Pomona Valley Transportation Authority, which is the agency that provides our Get About and our Dial-A-Cab services. They are going to continue to try and provide that service, especially for seniors who may need to come to our meal program or may need to go shopping or provide medical services, so we're working with them. I did speak with the county fire department last night, and their operations are continuing as far as delivery of services. Obviously, their personnel are taking some extra safety precautions, but they wanted to assure us that their services are continuing to be provided. So the city staff is continuing to be in close contact with our partnering agencies, and as I said, working to provide the essential services for the community. We want the community to know that you know, the city is trying to support their needs as best we can. But unfortunately, you know, as the captain indicated, you know, there is an impact on our personnel based upon, you know, this virus, and some of our personnel are impacted directly by it. So we will continue to provide the services as best we can until there's a position where we don't have the personnel to do that, and we will continually let the public know what our level of service delivery is. And the best way for that would be for them to contact us on our website. We're pushing out information on our social media, and then we'll be using our Code Red system as we have significant changes in our delivery of services. So that's kind of where we are as far as the city operations. And again, be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have one question. City Hall is closed, right?
Correct.
But people could still phone in.
Correct. No, City Hall is closed from the lobby standpoint, but people can still call in. We still have staff here to answer phone calls and are actually doing work. We have some staff that are at home and are actually teleworking if they have that capability. So we're trying to do whatever we can, but it's just that the main message from public health officials is to minimize group contact.
Well, I think it's important that people know that they can phone in if they have questions.
Right. So what we're trying to do is trying to minimize group meetings and group contact, but we're trying to make sure that we can still respond to people's needs.
Again, our community is served by two hospitals, the San Dimas Community and Pomona Valley. Have you reached out to their CEOs and talked to them about what they're planning on doing in the event of, you know, mass casualty or mass?
Not specifically, but I understand actually from some briefings we had with the county health today that that's probably the next step. Is what the sheriff's department and the county health department is trying to assess the sick capacity for the hospitals in the region, and so we'll be working in coordination with the sheriff's department and the county health to understand what those capacities are.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, you mentioned something about senior citizens and you know, going shopping and that kind of thing. So part of that is if people, anybody, but I can imagine a senior citizen, especially living alone, is worried about running out of food, and they just really aren't up to going to the store and fighting the, you know, trying to find something on empty shelves. What kind of plan do we have to provide that kind of need to them?
What we're working on is that we're trying to partner with the organizations that provide that kind of meal delivery service. We've been in contact with the Meals on Wheels program to see if they can increase their capacity. And as I said, with our lunch program, we're working with our supplier to try and see what kind of meal delivery that we can do. At this point, I'm not sure that we're going to be in a position to be able to provide, that meal delivery, but what we're trying to partner with are the organizations that are already providing those services so that we can put people in contact with them.
And, yeah, that's exactly what we just need to.
Yeah, we're trying to be like a facilitator of those services.
Right, right. It's good that people can call City Hall for any number of things, and that would be one of them. And one thing that comes to mind is, we're telling senior citizens to stay home, and now a Meals on Wheels person comes to them, which is a great service, but now they're interacting with the Meals on Wheels person. So, these things can't be taken lightly, I think, and so I'm not sure what the protocol would be, but it's just something to keep in mind on how we're gonna do that.
They're recommending to those agencies that it's a drop-off. They don't give it to them. They don't.
Okay, yeah, that's what I would,
The other thing that.
That's what I'm saying, you've gotta have a plan to do.
People may not, everybody may not be aware of yet, is that the supermarkets are opening early for senior citizens. Albertsons will open at 7:45. I believe Stater Brothers is doing that, and I think probably all of them will be doing it, and it's exclusively for seniors. During that, they're open, from that time, from 7:45 until their normal opening time will be for seniors.
And again, that would be great to find out, because some people may not know that, and then you can tell them.
Yeah, and that's changing. I think that's changing daily. The other thing that we're
Well, if you
trying
go
to.
over there now, it's in the store, got signs. And
Yeah. The other thing
it's
that we're trying to encourage
being
people
put
are
out.
that even though restaurants are closed for in-restaurant dining, restaurants are taking a really big economic hit with having these closures. And I know that there are a lot of restaurants that are trying to put together, takeout meals or prepackaged meals that I know that our concessionaire at the Walker House, Luca Bella, sent me an email last night. And what they're looking at is trying to put together some family-type meals for, a family of 4 that you can actually call in and then place your order, drive by, pick it up. So again, we want to try and encourage people that, try and, if you can, utilize the restaurants for your meals, because that's a service industry that is taking a really, really big economic impact because of this. So if there's any opportunity for people to utilize the restaurants on a takeout or drive-through basis, that would be a good way to get some of your meals provided for you, but also to support the local economy and the local restaurants.
Are there some hourly workers, or anybody for that matter, who we may not need to call in? And I'm thinking of, I don't know, some of the lower-end workers.
Our position that we have taken as far as an employer is that for employees who may not be able to come to work because of either quarantine or illness or childcare issues, we are fully compensating them for the time that they're off. We're not requiring them to use sick or vacation. For our hourly employees who have been displaced, our regular hourly employees who've been displaced because of cancellation of programs, we're trying to make them as whole as possible by compensating them for the hours that they're not working. So that's what we're trying to do as an employer.
Yes, and I know you told me that on the phone. I really appreciate that.
Ken, in your emergency operations center structure, do you have someone that liaisons with any community or faith-based organizations?
To this point, we have not, but that would be part of our logistics plan. And so, we may want to be reaching out. I know that as far as service delivery, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have been calling and asking how they can help. And, with the senior population, include my parents, and then there's folks with disabilities, access, and functional needs also who need services and need assistance. So I think there's a group of folks here in San Dimas that feel compelled, be it they're at home or they're home from school or whatever the case may be, that they want to help in some way. And it may be helpful to leverage some of the individuals that have relationships or organizations you know, there's a number of people that come to mind right now that I'm sure you're familiar with, but they might be itching to get involved or just waiting for a phone call, whether it's Rotary or whether it's any of these other organizations we have in the community. So it might be helpful to have someone to be a community and faith-based organization liaison and see if we can help in some of the things that other members of council have brought up that could be helpful.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Have we,
What's that?
have we considered, and I asked this, I'm not a overly huge fan of it, but considering the stock market and everything else that's going on, and my personal knowledge and involvement with some of this in emergency management, have we considered fine or penalty extensions for folks that have current code enforcement issues that maybe could be pushed out given what's going on with people's jobs?
Yeah, as I mentioned, what we're doing is basically suspending all of our code enforcement activity. So if there's anybody who has a time frame as far as compliance with code enforcement, that will be extended and pushed out. Again, unless there's a life safety issue where we need to do that enforcement. So yeah, we have taken that into consideration.
Okay. And then with regards to messaging, I know, do we have the capability to be able to push out information? I mean, like you and I were texting the other night and like Sunday night, can we have that capability, or do we have that capability that you or someone could push something out, like parking suspension, for example, that we could get that information out sooner than the next business day?
Yes, we have put into place protocols where our public information officer or others, we have the ability to send them information, as we did over the weekend, to push out information is in real time or as close to real time as possible. So we have that ability for those type of staff to be able to put out that messaging remotely.
Great. And I heard what the mayor said. I did visit a number of the grocers. I know that some of them are in fact doing the early access, but it would be helpful if the EOC could check with the other local grocers, or at least get a list of folks that perhaps are allowing early access for seniors, and maybe we could aggregate that list and maybe push it out to the community, because I did go and it's a frenzy, and it's bad enough to go and deal with it, but I mean to have the elderly have to deal with that, I don't agree with that. So
yeah, we'll do what we can. The difficulty is that this is changing, hourly, and we're trying to aggregate as much of that information as possible. But I know, even the grocery stores from a day to day are changing their hours of operation and their, protocols, and same thing with restaurants. We even talked today about putting together a list of restaurants who have services, but that could change hour by hour. So we'll try and get as much of that information and push it out to the community as possible.
Let's, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now, let's make sure that we understand not only our big chains, Albertsons and things like that, but Trader Joe's, Smart and Final, those places are all offering this service right now, so let's not forget them.
Yeah.
I think that all came from if you noticed when the president gave his big thing about all of this, the CEOs of all the major food chains were there and making commitments that they would keep their stores open, that they would do all these kind of things. So I suspect the fact it's all happening to everybody is that's all coming from the top of their systems.
And the food is an issue, and I'm just cognizant of what Maurice was saying about the farmer's market. And I mean, it's like any grocery store, it seems that you're, closer than 6 feet to the cashier, for example, and you're in line, you're not yet anyway, people aren't, putting 6 feet between you and the next person in the line. Maybe they're starting to do that. But I'm just wondering if the farmer's market is really any different than a grocery store as far as the threat of passing something along. So, I know what you're thinking about. Usually when you go to the farmer's market, there's crowds, and so you are pretty close, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that I'm just trying to think of the difference between a grocery store and the farmer's market, if the farmer's market is where some people go to get their fresh fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, when we made the decision to postpone the start of the farmer's market was based upon, the state guidelines as far as public congregation. And so
Right.
we'll take a look at the information that Maurice has provided us and evaluate whether there is an opportunity to, open a produce-only portion of the market, and we'll make that determination. But it was really more trying to find, stay within the guidelines of public gathering. So we'll work with Maurice, and if there's an opportunity that we can, like I said, just look at the food portion of it, and allow them to operate that in a way, we'll take a look at that, and we'll let the community and the council know.
I just one last thing, and this is another thing. I know you're working hard and meeting a lot with not only staff, but with the other agencies to keep abreast of what's going on and what the best practices are and everything. So this has to do with working from home. So there may be a mandate at some point where people have to work from home. And it would be great if San Dimas could be ahead of the curve on that as far as employees go. And with that said, we need to be planning now, and you probably are, but about how that would work, because you still want to deliver the services, as Dennis was saying. So working from home means working from home, and so I know that it's probably possible, and John Lee probably can do this, or everybody can. When I work from home, I forward my desk phone to my cell phone or my home phone or whatever I want to do, so that a person calls the regular number and gets the regular response because the regular person's there. So however that would work, and with virtual meetings, all our meetings at Hogue now are via Skype. So we're wherever you are, anywhere you're in the meeting. So are you starting to plan for that contingency, or?
Yeah, we have actually been planning for that contingency. And so we do have the technical capabilities for those whose function would allow them to work from home, or they actually can provide a service from home. We do have those capabilities. We're refining those. There are a lot of our employees, though, that are field staff or are direct counter, service delivery, where they really can't work from home because they don't provide a service or a function that allows them for that. But for those that do, we do have those capabilities if it comes to the point where they do need to. In fact, we do have a few employees that are actually now off because of childcare or illness issues where they are working from home. So we have the technical capability for those employees to do that, but it really is a limited number of employees that have the responsibilities that allow them to work from home.
Okay, and my last point is that at some point, even those people who don't have a function they can do from home are going to be told to go home.
Right.
So we have to know what that means, and if it means the grass doesn't get mowed or the trash doesn't get picked up in city halls as often, that's just the way it is.
Right, and again, we're planning for that, and our contingency plan is that if those types of employees are having to be sent home, we would still be compensating them,
All right.
for the time that they're not able to show up to work.
Ken, for those persons that, the 65 plus, and I saw some emails about it, along the recommendations of telecommuting and what have you, have we also included in that at-risk group any persons that may be pregnant that we've accommodated?
Yeah, what we've actually sent out to our employees is identifying those that are of the age group that has been identified, the 65 plus, or those who have physical, underlying physical issues that feel that they need to stay home, and we're accommodating those people as well.
And do we have adequate personal protective equipment for our city staff to be able to address whatever they need to?
Yeah, in most cases, we're not, a first responder delivery service, so, but we do have personal protective equipment for people. Our maintenance and custodial staff has been adding additional services for, cleaning, the city hall and our public facilities. So we're trying to keep up.
We're passing out meals, though, for seniors.
Yeah, and actually, they had personal protective equipment today when they were passing out meals.
Okay. And then on a separate note, and I'd emailed you about this earlier, but do we have a COOP plan, as we talked about, a continuity of operations plan for the city?
We do have one, but it's probably outdated, so we're looking at that, and we'll be updating that as necessary. And I should mention that right as of now, we do have a city council meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, March 24th. Our intention is that we go forward with that city council meeting unless something changes between now and then and we can't deliver that service. But what we will do is provide an update on, the city's operations as well as that plan at the next city council meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'd like to see the COOP plan at minimum, and I do think that we should have that laid out, and each director and each department should have each portion of their operating procedures outlined. And I'm also interested in a continuity of government plan, which usually accompanies that anyways. But I think it's like we need it like yesterday type of thing, that I don't anticipate in the next, we'll just say 45 days, that this is going to blow over. I think we're still going to be dealing with this, and I think we're going to be at a different stage in the game with this. So I'd just like to make sure that the continuity of operations for the community is solidified, and that there's a clear understanding by the council on how we're going to deliver service to the community, and that the community can rest assured knowing that we've thought through all of that. One of those things being civic engagement, I think is important in allowing the public to communicate. I don't think you need to apologize for any clumsiness on that. Bottom line is, I sent you something an hour ago saying, hey, we really should do this because some community members were asking, and you made it happen. I mean, that's what this requires right now, is it's a rapid, dynamic, rapidly evolving situation, as we would say in my profession. But I appreciate everything you're doing, and I hope to see that plan. I expect to see that plan on Tuesday as part of the staff report.
I think it's the point you make about this going a long time. The whole purpose of the plan, of what they're working on, is to stretch it out as long as possible. The fear is that if they don't stretch it out, it will overwhelm the emergency medical services and all the medical services. So if they're successful, this is going to continue on for 6 or 8 months or maybe more. Maybe not at this level, but until that's the whole deal, is to, instead of that curve going straight up, is to bend it down, and that would mean continuing to do all these preventive things that we can do.
Yeah. And as the press conference that I listened in on this afternoon with the county officials, one of the biggest concerns, to your point, Emmett, is the bed capacity of hospitals, and not just for people who are affected by this virus, but just the normal capacity for people who have health needs. And so that's why the county health department is really trying to get a really good understanding right now of the bed capacity for not only emergency but also ongoing patients, and then trying to come up with some contingency planning on how they can increase bed capacity on a temporary basis, because that is one of the really big concerns from a health delivery service standpoint. Is we still have to be able to accommodate people who have other health issues and need procedures and health care, and that's a big concern.
Actually, most hospitals have plenty of beds. The problem is staffed beds. Yeah. And staffing gets to be critical, and with the staffing ratios that we now have, there's no extra. Yeah. And the federal government has been trying for a number of years to reduce the number of hospital beds. They've tried to. Hospitals are expensive, and they've tried to cut that capacity down. And so when you get to an emergency, it's like the ventilators. The people that build ventilators, they're not like refrigerators that they have a whole lot of them in the pipeline somewhere. So if you say, I want a ventilator, you can get one. But if you say, I want 100 ventilators, you might not. So it's a system that we have put in to try to control the costs, which are outrageous, and we have cut the capacity a lot by doing it.
Ken, our EOC, if we had to activate it and we had X amount of employees off that are normally assigned to that, are we cross-trained enough that that would be able to work? I mean, we have X amount of bodies that are normally assigned to the EOC, and I don't know, from all I've heard in the last few years, is that we're up to date with who's gonna back up Hector, who's gonna back up Ken, who's gonna back up whatever, in case those people or those bodies aren't available.
Yeah, I think that we are, we do have a lot of new employees who've come on in management level positions over the last year. But as we were talking today with our staff, really, the city's role in this kind of an emergency is more supportive of the medical community and public safety. So what we're looking at as far as if we were going to be activating our EOC would just be to provide support services. It's not like an earthquake or a storm-related incident where our staff would actually be out in the field responding. We would actually be really just kind of say we're here to help support the other agencies that are out there. So I think in this particular emergency, we feel pretty comfortable, and again, we talked about this today with our management staff, that we can actually be able to provide that level of service that we need to provide as a city to support the emergency. So I think that's, I feel confident that we're able to, we would be able to operate a functional EOC. But we actually have been at a stage 3 EOC activation for the last week, where our management team has been meeting on a daily, if not twice a day basis. We're not physically in our emergency operations center, but we're having briefings on a twice a day basis so that we can actually be able to respond to the emergence of this situation.
Okay, one additional thing. I know that we're meeting with Andy Berg and the Sheriff's Department. What outreach have we done to the county fire department, to the chief that's in charge of this?
Yeah, I spoke to the staff last night, and it was mostly updating me on what their operations are. And so I have direct, contact with Assistant Chief Inman and his staff, and we've been communicating in the last couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, I'm pleased that we have this food program extending this week, but I think we should try to work something out where it extends as long as this lasts. And that is, we would be delivering meals, but people could come and pick them up. So maybe we could look into that.
Yeah, we are, I don't know, Hector, if you have any additional information or anything that we found out more this afternoon?
Good evening. Nothing more to report on that, except that we are making contact with those agencies that Ken mentioned, and also looking at the YMCA to see what their production levels are, depending on our needs. As you know, those meals that we have are planned ahead of time, so people have to sign up, and the YWCA is aware of that, and to this moment, they can provide those foods, but as those meals. But as the demand grows, there's going to be some adjustments from them. So the other option that we're looking at is that there are some other nonprofit and some for-profit organizations that are out there and available. And I have a conference call with one of those companies tomorrow at 10.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ken or discussion of this matter? Okay, then why don't we move on to oral communications? If anybody in the audience would like to address the city council, this is another opportunity, or anybody on the phone.
City Council, City Manager, and staff, Bob Olander. First of all, happy St. Patrick's Day. Number two, I want to thank Ken Duran for getting out that press release today from the County Health Department and the County Public Information Officer. I think it's really important for our residents to really read that information that's on our website. If we follow those things that are recommended, I think it's going to help our residents and our business people be more successful. And the outcome, although it may be a while, will be better than not following those recommendations. So I urge you to read the information on the website today. Wash your hands. Social distancing is really important. And follow those other recommendations that are in the press release put out by Mr. Duran. It was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, one more time. Oh, sorry about that. I just wanted to, you want to answer that?
Good evening. I just wanted to compliment the city council and the city for excellent communication, electronic communication coming out about all the services and things going on. Really, really well done. So thank you very much, gentlemen, staff, and ladies.
Thanks, Mitch. Thank you.
I just wanted to remind people on something that Ryan tweeted earlier about Bonita Unified. Basically, any children under the age of 18 can pick up a free grab-and-go breakfast and lunch bag this week and next week from the side of Chaparral High School. It's their central kitchen, and they're working really hard there. 10 a.m. to noon, and the address is 121 West Allen Avenue. No ID, you don't need to sign anything, and also you don't need to bring your kids. Just go there. If you have them, they trust you, they'll give you some food. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, Ken, bringing about that, would you follow up with Carl Coles? There was some rumors that the district is suspending school until April the 6th, okay? Then there was a rumor that says they were going to close schools to the beginning of the summer. Okay, but the difference was, from what I was understanding, was suspending, they would provide these lunches. If they chose to close the school, then they would not supply the lunches. Could you follow up with that? I believe that's, that rumor started out there, and then somebody brought it on and said Covina School District had chose to close the schools so they didn't have to supply the meals. Could you follow up on that?
Yeah, I'll follow up on it. The latest that I heard from the school district today was that their suspension of in-service classes was still through the 6th, and they were providing this nutrition program. I haven't heard anything that they're considering beyond that, but I'll follow up with the district.
Anyone else like to address the city council? Okay, then we'll move on to the city manager. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Ken?
The only thing I want to add is that I am so proud of our staff. This has been a unprecedented last couple of weeks, especially since last Thursday. And I'm proud that our staff has really kind of pulled together. And as a team, we're making team decisions. And as I said, this is unprecedented. There's no playbook for how to respond to this kind of a situation. And I think we've made some good decisions. I think we've made some decisions that were a little bit progressive from maybe some other agencies, where maybe some people may have doubted maybe we were being a little bit reactive or overreacting. But I think that we've made the best decisions to provide the necessary services for our community, and we'll continue to make those decisions going forward. But I can't emphasize enough that this isn't a me effort, this is a we effort, that our staff has really stepped up and will continue to do that. And as long as we can, there may be a situation where, we have some mandatory quarantining for some of our staff, or we may have to be working from home, but we're committed and dedicated to provide whatever we can for the community in this time of crisis. And I just want to applaud all of them for their efforts and their continued efforts. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. City attorney is not here, so we will go to members of the city council first. If anyone has attended a meeting at the expense of the city since our last council meeting and report, now is the time to report it. I don't see anybody indicating they want to do that, so we'll go to individual comments. Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. I just will say, Ken, good job for all of your team. I think you guys are doing good. I have some unique insight to all of this, and my role I get to play at work makes it a little bit more unique, but I'm proud of the work that's being done here. I think you guys are doing a really good job, and I think you've gotten, you're in the leading the pack of the cities trying to do the right thing for their community, and I appreciate that. You know, I got a phone call and a couple text messages from folks concerned regarding a news article and subsequently some job postings related to the establishment of a lab here in the city to be able to test COVID-19 samples. I actually, after hearing about that news, I went and tracked down the CEO of that company, who's from the Bay Area, and was able to, since it's a startup, kind of funny thing, I was able to track him down on social media and ultimately send him a message to call me. So at 10:30 or so at night, the CEO of this company did call me. The community has nothing to be concerned about regarding the establishment of this lab. As you may have heard the president address in the last couple days, that there are a number of these labs being established to be able to produce the kits that are needed to be able to test people in a more timely fashion. This lab, which is going into a space that's an existing lab, so it is nothing new to the community where it's being placed, or where it's actually just simply being done because it's already an established lab with an established permit and established use. They have all the safety precautions in accordance with what they should. They're using biohazard 2 suits for all of their personnel working in the lab. They were, when I talked to him on Saturday, they were actually shipping robotics down from Reno to be able to assist in the timely processing of all of the kits that they anticipate getting. By the end of this week, he had said that they should have their testing capacity up to 1,000, or in their production capacity up to 1,000. And in the weeks to follow, their goal would be to produce 10,000 kits a day. And the difference between these kits and the current testing, and as the mayor and others alluded to, is that testing has taken approximately 3 days for people to get the testing back. And so this test will be able to be produced, the results, in 24 hours. So if all goes well, I think they're going to be part of the effort to get ahead of this, to raise awareness and for people to get treatment sooner or get quarantine or isolation sooner so they can help stop spread the infection and take care of themselves. So case in point is there's nothing to be alarmed about. We have plenty of biopharma companies here in the city. This is nothing different than anything that we've had, and I felt comfortable after speaking with him that they sound like a very responsible, very credible company, and they have a lot of different researchers on board with them from other universities, reputable universities locally that do this type of work. So I look forward to them helping be pivotal and fixing this. For the city, I'm interested in, when this is all over, an after action report on how the city and its emergency operations center handled this, how the decisions that we as council made, what we did great, what we could do better. I think that there's a lot of different things related to this, timeliness of information, distribution to the community, the leverage of technology, being flexible and adaptable, things that we're demonstrating right now. But I do think it's important as a tool for us to use as a benchmark. I hope we never have to see this type of emergency again. But I do think that it is an opportunity for us to see in the end how we handled it and learn from it and do the next one all that much better. So I hope we can look at a vehicle to make that happen when we get near the end of the incident. And usually that, we can talk offline about it, but it generally is questionnaires that go out to participants, different branches, sections, council, and then we all sit down and get a aggregated report that can be produced for the community, and we can all talk about it and see how we move forward with recommendations. I appreciate the community engagement piece of this. I appreciate the information you've been putting out. As Mr. Olander said, I think it's important that the information gets pushed out quickly, timely, and is accurate. So thank you for that. People may have seen Department of Public Health attributed one case to the city of San Dimas. And the bottom line is I just want to dispel the public's questions that we as electeds get fully read in on all this information. HIPAA applies in these situations. So there's a lot of information. We don't know who the individual is. We don't know where they live. We don't know a lot of that information, and public health does protect their patient rights. So unfortunately, at this time, there isn't a lot more information other than what you get from public health related to that. I just wanted to thank Ken for the suspension of parking. I know a lot of people had college kids home unexpectedly. They've had family members or elderly parents maybe that live in the community that people are unexpectedly staying here to help. And I think what you're doing is helping. I'm almost done. The health order given by the Department of Public Health, the county officer, just so people understand, that's a real order. There's actually health and safety code behind that. It is something that is enforceable. There is a discussion. The Department of Public Health will be the primary enforcement arm of any sort of potential folks operating in conflict of the order. And they're going to do their best, as Dr. Ferrer stated earlier today, to be able to educate people regarding the order in an effort to hopefully get compliance. We are all in this together, so it is important that everybody understands that. That being said, I certainly would hope our local businesses do their part too and try to stick to the guidelines in this. I know a lot of folks want to sit down. I know a lot of folks want to break bread, and some businesses may not think this is really a big deal, but it is a big deal, and I think we owe it to everybody to try to do our part together to curb this thing. Last couple things. To that end, small businesses are going to get hit. As you've seen even in the stock market, big businesses are getting hit. So I encourage people to please support our local businesses during this time. It's hard for people, especially when they have employees who they may not be able to give hours to because of reduced attendance by patrons and things like this. So, if you can order from any of the restaurants that offer takeout or have changed their business model, please do so. Every little bit helps to keep the local economy. We're feeding families literally with every dollar we spend, and hopefully we can help take care of some of the people that help make some of our city events great and participate in this community, a lot of these businesses that are here. To that end, for those that, small businesses that may suffer economic injury, the United States Small Business Administration did put out information. If you're suffering economic injury because of COVID-19, you can call 1-800-659-2955, or you can go to disasterloan.sba.gov. That actually are the business loans that have been authorized to assist some of the small businesses. So if anybody needs that, that information is pushed out widely. At the end of the day, I know going to eat right now is what I imagine it was like during Prohibition. I never lived during it, but trying to find out where to go for a green beer on St. Patrick's Day is probably not going to happen right now. I'm not sure where we're going to go, but maybe other than home and sneak it in. But I hope everybody has a great St. Patrick's Day as best that we can given these times. Be mindful of social distancing, and I appreciate everybody's opportunity. I don't think because of the virus we should limit people's ability to engage with the government. And so I appreciate every effort, including the setup of the phone call, to let people, and keeping the phone lines open during normal business hours so that people can reach their city officials, their city staff the way they need to. So thank you for all of that. And lastly, Thank you to all of the staff members that are here making things happen. I know this is hard to maintain the operation, if you will, when people don't have access to their desk or they don't have their files. But the bottom line is we are a city. We have customers. We have people. And lastly, hell, whatever. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. I'm done. I'm out of gas. Thank you.
John?
The staff, thanks to the staff and gratitude for that, so I won't go on about that. Ryan, you said it in many ways, and thank you. The mayor made that point about the curve being kind of crunched down or squished down, so it's more of a mound than a steep up and who knows what after that. And that's really the goal. It will, as you can imagine, elongate things if you push it down, but that's really the goal here. And it is important to take it seriously. That's just all I can say about that. Ryan, thank you for the information about the startup company and the test kits and everything. I mean, I knew about that, but I didn't know the details, so I appreciate your giving us the lowdown on that. And not much more. It just occurred to me, and I had a website for my campaign. I decided to repurpose that. So if you go to johneberter.com now, there's lots of great places to get information. And so all I've done is you land on a coronavirus page. There's a bunch of links to some great places to get information like the CDC, Johns Hopkins, the county, and the city of San Dimas. If you want a fast way of getting to the city of San Dimas coronavirus page, it's on my website as well. And then I put all the press releases that we're releasing out there. So anyway, it's one way to get information. There's lots of others, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. You can go there to get some information as well. That's it.
Thanks, Ken. Good job. Thanks for keeping us up to date on what's going on, you and your staff. I have cheated, just so you know. I don't normally have my cell phone up here monitoring, but I just saw a message from a citizen that says, "It's streaming, but it's not what Emmett told me. I'm pissed." Meaning the fact that somebody called me and asked me, was this going to be televised? And I said yes. Okay, because that's what I was told. So let me read that again. I'm pissed. And that means, I got to tell you, I need to know why, what the problem is, why it's being streamed. I don't care if it's being streamed or televised, but they both have to be done. The televised has to happen when you guys are telling me.
We'll check right now, but we're
That's probably
we're
a little late
broadcasting.
now.
it's actually on the screen right now.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
I just read it.
Well, all right,
That's
well,
all I
we'll
can
get more
tell you.
details on that.
I'll follow up on it,
Yeah.
but the reality is, if in fact I'm wrong, that's great.
Yeah.
I've been wrong before, but wherever this person is watching it can't seem to get it on Channel 3, and they're streaming. So that's the best I can tell you.
Yeah, we'll get the details on it, but as I know, the monitors that are in the council chamber, that's the Channel 3 feed right there, so we'll follow up on it.
Yes,
Probably
please.
something
I'd
wrong
like
with the
it.
stream. I got the exact same question and led the guy to where you can watch city council meetings and say, click here when it starts and you'll see it. And he was, and he wasn't a person who normally watches the meetings. He was really interested. So, yeah, that stuff's got to be reliable.
Yeah, I'd love to get the details so we can follow up on that.
Okay, just thank you, and tell your staff that I think the council's very pleased the way things are going here in the city. You've done an excellent job. And hopefully, I'm sure we'll get through with this, and just as the public, just stay healthy.
Okay, we will be adjourning this meeting to the meeting at 7 p.m. on March 24, 2020. And you'll be giving us further details as to how that meeting will be. But as of now, it's intended it'll be an in-person meeting here.
Yes, that's the intention now. We will,
We'll restrict the number of people that can come in if we can't get them the social
Right.
distance apart.
and we'll also refine the call-in portion. We are trying to keep that agenda fairly light, just to essential business, so that's our plan.
Okay, we're adjourned.